Yeah, well, if he didn't do it,
wrapper.
Heidi would. So
Yeah.
I threw it away, and I immediately thought of Heidi. She's gonna freak out that I didn't cut those, and she's gonna say she's gonna show me a picture of her turtle dying.
Yeah, dying.
Yeah.
Whoops. Wow.
Yeah, right?
Soup!
All right, so we're going to go here. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to Interviews with Everyday People. I'm your host, Anthony, here. Nikolai is here, but he is off camera.
Hello.
There he is. Nikolai is also, obviously, we have a big table and two very large men here. He's in a lot better shape than I am now. This is, not you. So this is the Dan and Dan show.
Yes.
Everyone has met, if you watched the other shows, we did our episode 1 of Bangin' Beers. Trademarked by Ben. Dan showed up and drank a couple beers with us and made some funny faces when he drank a sour.
Oh, that was bad.
It was terrible.
That was bad.
And we were joined by Dan Wowak. Am I saying that correct?
Dan Wowak.
Wowak.
Yeah.
Dan is a local guy here from Monte City, my hometown. He has a lot of cool experiences and cool stories and things he's been getting into with the bushcraft scene.
Yeah.
And is it considered bushcraft or survivalist? Because I hear
it's a mixture of both. I'm more into the bushcraft end of it, which I can explain that in a minute or two here.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people about it, the overall general consensus of what we do is long-term wilderness living skills.
Yeah.
So anything outdoor living is what we teach.
And I would never be able to do this. I said as a joke, one of these days when we get better equipment and get cameras and stuff, or we have something where I take on the road, I think it'd be funny if we all came out and tried it with you.
Yeah.
And then we're out there 25 minutes and we're cold and we go home.
Heidi.
Yeah, come. I don't know where I'd be like the show. I'd be hitting the button.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Bing, bing, bing. Get ready.
I was obsessed with the show for the because. He talked to me a little bit about it. He said, you were going to be with season 2, and then season 1 was 3, and then season 2 I think was going on at the time.
At the time, yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm jumping on this show.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's so out of my comfort zone, but it was awesome to watch because I thrive on stuff like that. So if it's out of my comfort zone, I like it more because I want to learn more about it.
Right.
I'm like a sponge. And that was a season with they were in, I think it's I don't even remember where they were, but it was bears everywhere.
That's season 2.
Season 1 and 2, they were up in on the
Canada.
West Coast in Canada.
And there was just bears everywhere.
Everywhere they went, bears.
This
bears,
one dude was
bears.
talking so much garbage, and he's like, if I see a bear, I'm gonna punch that bear. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then he seen one bear shit, and he was like,
I'm out.
Bink.
Yeah, out here.
So I was like, this show is amazing.
Yeah.
There was some really It's always don't judge a book by its cover. So you always see the guys with the big beards and the big dudes and I'm here to and I can make a house out of a tree. And then there's these girls that are kicking ass in the show and they're awesome. The girl who cut her hand with the axe.
Oh yeah. That was in season 2.
Yeah, so I was obsessed with it. It's called Alone. Is it still going on Discovery, right?
On History Channel.
History Channel.
They just had the 4th season, which was a redemption season. So they took people from past episodes and they brought them back in.
Did they ask you?
And then they did ask me. Initially, they said, "Would you be interested?" kind of thing. Because production, I don't want to say they're shady, but production is always. They're out for their best interest with things, so they try to line up as much as they can, and then they break it down. Where's going to be a good story? What kind of characters are going to match up best? Always.
So I have a theory on your story a little bit with the show. We'll get that in a bit, but but I thought your strategy was smart in the show.
Yeah,
I thought it was super smart because you're a bigger guy.
Yeah,
and you're I'm not going to go out there and waste my time and give you good footage and give you stuff to put on TV. I'm here to win. I'm going to conserve my energy.
Right.
So my opinion, and I talk to other people who are on reality shows, and if you don't give them excitement, they're not moving. They
have to make a decision up on the front end of how exciting are you going to be. To get on a show. So I think they looked at me because I was doing this stuff, I was teaching this stuff, and I was a trapper, and they didn't have anybody to trap before on there. So they, gave me a shot. Obviously, I was on the show, and then when I got out there. And the situation becomes dire to the point that I would go at different times 6-7 days with no food.
Yeah, that's
so
insane.
When you're not eating, and then you're like, well, you can't be running around building stuff and doing things. You just don't have the energy to do it. So you really need to focus your skills down onto just getting food. How are you going to just get to your next meal? And then that eliminates a lot of the tinkering around and playing around with different stuff.
Yeah, it seemed like the people who tinker and build and do stuff, like when the guy built like a toilet and stuff, and I was like, that's TV gold. But if a guy's just like, you kind of had like a meditation thing where you just kind of, you know, calm yourself down, you would like meditate, zen a little bit, and that was most of your footage. So you're like, Stacy's over here building, you know, this, and you're just like, you're like hanging out by the river, like waiting for a fish or whatever. Yeah. But now you are you're a trapper, very skilled trapper, and you said that's what helped you get on the show, correct?
I think so, yeah, because I mean, that's like a dying art in a sense. You know? So
what was your audition tape?
Well, for the audition tape, I had to go out and just film myself for a whole day, a whole night, and a whole day. And it was freezing cold, and when they contacted me to do the tape, I only had a GoPro at that time. I wasn't even too big into YouTube or anything like that at that time. So I'm like, I had to run to Walmart and buy batteries for my GoPro. And my wife was running back and forth like at a drop spot with freshly charged batteries for this GoPro. And then I just camped. It was really cold. It was like almost 0 degrees out. So I'm like sweating bullets. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get it, because it's tough trapping in super cold weather like that. So I finally got a raccoon the next day, and then I skinned it out, ate it, and everything. And
so you skinned it right on your audition tape?
Yeah.
I bet you they loved it.
Well, I shot it, skinned it, and then I ate it, and I was like, you know, that should probably pretty much seal the deal, I would think, to move me forward.
Now, they say that you're able to bring certain things with you.
Yeah.
Were you able to bring some of your traps?
No.
Like as I say, because I think I think if they wanted TV gold, they should let you brought a trap or two. That's your skill.
So no, there was the only trapping stuff that they really had. They give you a list of things that you can bring. You got to pick off of that list. Was they had like wire, like heavy gauge wire, and the wire was such a heavy gauge that it was like, unless you had pliers, you're not bending it, setting snares and things like that.
Yeah, so it was a waste.
It sort of eliminated it.
If they would have let you brought like a foot trap or something. And if you would have ate a raccoon or a squirrel on TV, like that would have been amazing, and it would have helped you because you would have done very well with that.
Right?
Yeah, it was because I watched some of the YouTube stuff and how you trap, and he showed me a lot of stuff and how you guys craft stuff and do that. I was like, man, it's cool. Like I said, I would never be able to do it, but it's really, really cool stuff. So when you got the call to be on the show, what was your first initial reaction with that?
Oh, I was super pumped. I'm like, I'm winning this show. I'm winning. I mean, I think that's everybody's reaction. And it's real nerve-wracking because they take 20 people up to New York State and they do this assessment. So they take you out in the woods, they make you do different things. You have to set a trap, build a shelter, and then just stay out overnight, start fires, all these different skill things. And then you have to do psychological evaluations. You have to do physical examinations. And then they're like, okay, we'll just get a hold of you guys by next Friday. See ya. And they send you home. So you're like sweating bullets for a whole week.
Wondering if you did it, if you did enough.
Yeah. And then I was just sitting at home on the couch and my phone rang. And I'm like, New York, this is the call. So it's the casting agent. She's like, hey, Dan, this is so-and-so from, you know, and I said, oh, hey, what's up? She's like, you want me to tell you what's going on? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, couple things. And she's like, and I'm like, can you just tell me already? Like, what? She's like, yeah, you're on the show. So we're going to be leaving. And I think we left in 20 days after they called us. So it was a quick turnaround. Yeah,
it was so cool. Like, I don't know. How did the camera crew react when they came to like Monty City and they're like, what is this?
Well, I thought a bigger camera crew was coming because that's how they talked. And it was only one guy came in and he was pretty laid back. He was like our age. So he filmed for most of the day. And then we went over where we have our school property now in Ringtown. And we'll film some stuff there. And then he was out there. So yeah.
And I remember the location. Where did they send you guys for that season?
Patagonia, South America.
That's what it was. Yeah. Now, did you feel you had more advantage because you were a northeastern bushcraft guy? So you were like, I can handle the cold. That's.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was supposed to be very cold and very snowy there, and it was one of the warmest, not snowiest.
It was really rainy, if I remember in the show. It rained and it was wet all the time.
Yeah, so there wasn't a lot of snow, and I mean it was cold every night. I would usually boil water before I went to bed, and then when I woke up in the morning, my water pot was frozen. So it would get cold to the point of freezing, but not a lot of snow and stuff. But I was happy we were going there because when we were in New York and they were going to release where we were actually going, in my mind, I'm thinking if it's the desert or the jungle, like I have no experience there, and I can apply my survival skills into those scenarios. But I'm like, do I really want to do that? Right. So I was questioning myself: am I going to go if that's the scenario? Yeah. At this point now, I mean, if you want to drop me in a jungle, I'm going to a jungle kind of thing. So going to a desert.
I see. I would hate the cold. But I feel if I was like, all right, you're going to do this show and there's money involved, or, because money talks for anybody. bugs and reptiles and snakes, they're not in the cold. So I'd rather the cold, because like a jungle, that can be bad news quick.
I mean,
you eat the wrong.
The show Naked and Afraid, those people, I don't know how some of them people do it.
Yeah,
they're just getting eaten alive, bitten by bugs.
No,
it's
thank
crazy.
you. Yeah, I would never want to do that.
Yeah,
I'd rather freeze.
Yeah,
but like I said, in those environments, you have some big animals in those.
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing for you in that season? Did they warn you like, hey, this is something
cougar? They were worried about cougar in that area.
Yeah, I think I'd rather a bear than a cat.
Yeah,
they're both terrifying.
Cat, you have no idea.
Yeah, because they hunt you like they're like raptors.
They're stalkers.
Yeah. You have no idea they're coming.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was funny though, because while we were there, Patagonia, the part we were in Argentina, is known a lot for their cattle and their beef. So they have all these gauchos that would push cattle through these big, huge open areas. But it wasn't even open areas. They were like mountainous areas, much like around here, except where our mountains end, that's where the Rocky Mountain begins, and it goes up really high, snow caps and stuff.
Yeah.
And production at one point was like, there's a lot of wild boar in this area. Look at all this, like, scat, like the poop. And I'm like, that's cow manure. They're like, no, that's wild boar. And I'm like, no, I mean, there's hoof prints from the cows coming through. That's definitely.
Could you imagine if like you killed one of their wild cattle?
Well, that was a big thing. They were like, if a cow comes through, you cannot kill it. And I'm thinking, I'm killing this cow. Like, what are you going to do after I eat it? I don't think you're going to throw me off the show. Like, you might edit it out.
It's been 6 days with a meal. I'm eating a cow.
Yeah, I'm going to eat the cow.
I'm having a nice American burger.
Yeah, exactly.
Now in the show they drop these all off in a range of each other. Now you get that transmitter. Does that also tell you if you're getting too close to someone else? So
they have like a geofence, they call it, set up between each person. So it wouldn't be like a hillside and then just sort of this invisible line. It's pretty predominant features on the landscape. So my area, the one side was opened up like a little bit of an inlet, and there was a small stream running into it. Very small, like a trickling stream, and that was my one cut off. And on the other side, there was a big rock outcrop out into the lake, and that was it. You couldn't go up on it. You can go up to it, but not up on it. So you sort of knew where you could go. And then they say you can go back as far as you want, and back as far as you want is up the mountain. So I mean, when you're not eating for 6 days, you're not climbing up the mountain. No.
Now, looking back on the show and seeing kind of, you know, some of the stuff your competition had or other people, where you're like, man, I wish I had their spot or over mine, because mine only had this much. And
I mean, that's a huge thing, because for me personally, and my whole survival strategy and how I was trained was, if you need resources and you need specific things, you better be in shape to go and get those things. So I'm big into fitness. I'm big into being physically fit, with being able to move around. And if I need to move 15 miles in a day, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And when I was there, it was like, this is your area. So I'm like, man, if I had an inlet, if I was on the sunny side of the lake, so I'm like, the shady side of the lake, when we all got back together at the reunion episode, those people were catching fish every day.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, I could just walk around the lake, but you're not allowed. So those kind of things were really tough, and you're just like,
it's kind of like a survival of the fittest. You're like, if your area is not fruitful, go to somewhere where it's fruitful.
Right.
So that's an interesting thing that they don't really put up on the show, that, you know, you're kind of stuck to a certain area. And
right.
So your skills are not really even put to test, because they're kind of giving you a disadvantage by saying you're stuck in this area.
Yeah. And what can you just do with that area?
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I did not. I knew the GPS thing was a situation. He was telling me a little bit that they would you couldn't go certain far, but I didn't know what detail. That's cool. Was there ever a point in the show when you were like, I'm in some trouble here, or maybe like a cat or something came by? Or
no, I didn't have any animal encounters at all. I didn't even see any animals around. But I kept a real tight schedule. When it got dark, I was like, I'm going to go to bed and just make it to the next day. Like, that was my mindset with it, because I thought, staying up, it's dark, the risk of injury, especially being run down. I mean, it was hard enough for me to move around during the day that low on energy, let alone in the middle of the night. And I'm like, what am I doing in the middle of the night, other than if I was going to check fishing lines or something like that? So I did a little bit of fishing at night, but the most part, I just laid down and slept for when it got dark, and then when it got light, I'd get up and get moving again. So
you would try to set yourself up like almost like a farmer schedule. You get up like sunrise, like before sunrise, and then start your day, and then cut it early, quick.
Yeah, and then cut it early.
That's smart. It's a whole different aspect. Like, my question has changed so much knowing that you weren't able to leave your area. That's very interesting. Trying to think here. So was there ever a moment where you're like, before like you eventually had to hit your button there? We'll get into that. That you were like, this is like, did you know right away you knew your area wasn't going to be good, and you were kind of going from that?
No, because I think that, like, deep down you just keep striving to go another day, so you just keep grinding away at it, and you don't know what areas other people have. So although it was frustrating, I couldn't go on the dark side of the lake because I'm thinking, man, you can see. So because we're in the southern hemisphere, so I'm on the light side and I'm looking at all these little inlets run in from the north side, and I'm like, oh, if I can just go over there, I bet there's more fish there, which there ended up being. But I mean, you don't know who's on that side, so you're sort of just grinding away with what you got there.
Were you able to see other people from around the lakes?
No, no. I would once in a while hear somebody banging on something, and I still don't know who that was. It was like somebody found a piece of metal or something, was banging on it because they were trying to build something, obviously. Yeah. And I heard Greg, who was a drywall. The older drywall guy, I heard him yell a couple times, and then I'd be like, "Wow!" Yell back, and then it'd get real quiet because everybody was always nervous. Like, production gets you scared that they're going to throw you off the show. Yeah. And so I'd yell back, and it'd get real quiet. And then I'd yell something real loud one day. I'd be like, "God damn it!" And then you'd hear like, "Hey!" And then it would get real quiet. I'm like, "Oh!" And then you run back to the shelter.
I was rooting for you on the show. Well, but thanks, I really like Greg was cool.
Greg's
man.
Awesome.
I when he was one that he built a boat, correct? Was that the hit?
Greg built like a raft,
and he fell off.
Yes.
Oh, when he hit the water, and he like you could just tell on his face like, "There's no chance. Like this is the end for me."
Yeah.
And then there was Greg was also at the point too where they were worried about his he was losing a lot of weight.
That was the other Greg. There were two Gregs.
Yes.
So that other Greg was the one, he was stockpiling fish. He should have just been eating.
He should have been eating, and he was like, if I have it, I'm just going to wait and not gorge myself because I don't know if that meal's going to come in a couple days. Yeah. So both those Gregs would go for the drywall guy. He was awesome.
The drywall guy and I left at the same time. We were like that same day we left. So we got to go out together. Yeah. Once they had like a reunion like on the shoreline because they do like post-production interviews. So they had us both there. I'm like, Greg, what are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? With his accent. So we got to go out the next night. Well, he can drink like a fish. And I'm like he can drink on like beers because I'm like, I'm going to just die here if I like go back to drinking like I normally drink. So they took us for steak and we were drinking and he's like, let's get 40s. So we're in like Patagonia, Argentina, and he's just killing these 40s of beer, smoking cigarettes. I'm like, this guy's wild.
Yeah, he was awesome in the show. Crazy. So I'm really happy that he's exactly like I thought he was. Yeah,
he's awesome.
He was, and
I'm supposed to go on a moose hunt with him up in Canada. I just haven't.
Oh my god, you should film him for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I see that you do keep in contact with him and stuff, right?
Yes.
Is he probably the biggest one from the show that you do stay in contact with?
No, Jim Shields. So Jim's the guy who left right away. He adopted 3 kids.
Yes.
He left. He got there and was there for I think a day or two only, and he was like, "I'm done.
I want to go back to my family."
So I'm pretty close with Jim. I talk to him almost.
How was that struggle leaving friends and family behind for this?
At first, it wasn't a huge issue for me. Like I was a little bit sad because I mean I'm close with my family, my friends and stuff. But then, as I was there longer and longer, I mean you have zero contact, so you're like, well, what if something happened at home?
And they don't tell you anything, right?
They don't tell you anything. So you're just running all these scenarios through your head. And then it was, I mean, I can remember pretty clearly on day 30, I was like, man, I miss people. And then I sort of got over it. I was like, I'll be all right.
Because in our area, like, you in the back of your mind, you're growing up school, county of Monte City, you're probably like, if I come home and tell my wife that I missed her and I left her and missed an opportunity of money, she's going to punch me in the head.
Yep. So, and then it was like, it wasn't until, so I was there 51 days. It was like day 49. I was like, man, I really miss everybody. Like, and I would sort of cycle through, which was a weird thing. And it was a little bit of struggle between me and production towards the end because they would ask, why did you actually leave? We need one reason. And I'm like, well, it wasn't just one thing. I was starving to death. I would miss people. And then I would have this weird feeling of like, I did as good as I can do. And then the next minute I'm like, who else can do this for 51 days? So like I'd go through this cycle of stuff, and it was just a combination of everything that I was like, all of this stuff, I'm like, just time to go.
Yeah.
And it just was like, well, that's not a good answer. And I'm like, well, that's my answer. I'm not going to make it up. And I still, to this day, when I think back, it was just like this weird cycle of emotions being out there. But I guess if I had to break it down, I mean, when you're not eating, it changes your mindset with stuff because it's really just taxing on your system. And when I finally saw myself, I lost 54 pounds in 51 days.
Well, the production was worried about your weight loss, correct?
I was getting close. Like, they were probably going to pull me anyway because, I was getting that light. So, that just with everything else. So if I had to really narrow it down now, like looking back, it was probably because of my lack of food that my decision making got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was.
His wife came to my house and she goes, "Hey, there's some weird guy at your garage," and I'm like, "Yeah, welcome to Canada. There's a lot of weird people." She goes, "No, he's really weird." I didn't know who he was. Like,
Yeah,
seriously,
it was
like
bad.
he was.
So when you first came home, you were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You could see the jawline, and I know him for almost 20 years. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, holy.
Well, I'll tell you a
moly.
funny story with that. So we go to the Red Zone in Monte City, the bar in Monte City.
Love that place.
Usually like once a week we go there. My
I
wife
still have
and
your
I.
bushcraft glass from that.
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. Yeah. So we usually go there once a week. Now that we have a kid, we like date night.
Yeah.
So we usually go down there. Now our little guy's 4, so we take him with us and we go earlier. And we go like religiously every week. And then I didn't tell anybody I was going on this show. So it just so happened, which we can get into in a minute here, I got laid off from the job I was at. I was laid off for a little while, got on the show, didn't tell anybody, and left. So I come back and I look a mess. So then people are like, they thought we got divorced. They thought I started drinking heavy and went to rehab because they're like, the bartender at the Red Zone was like, "We thought maybe you went to rehab or something." That was like the word around. And you guys got divorced because your wife was the only one coming here, and you looked real bad walking around town, and you were gone for about the amount of time before you go to rehab. And I'm like, no, I was on a TV show and I just starved to death.
Yeah,
So
I was
that's
starving.
I mean, it's
come
crazy.
back like a Freddie
though.
Mercury at the end there.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that was pretty comical for me to come back to. But
What was the adjustment like coming back right away? I mean, you go from zero social interaction, the noise that we take for granted, like cars, trucks, lights. What was that adjustment like?
Well, two things. So when I first got home, I just couldn't sleep. Like when they brought me in the first night they put me in a hotel and stuff. I was up to like 4:30 in the morning. I fell asleep. I woke up. It was like 6. I went down to the lobby and I was up. The next night I slept for like an hour. I got home. And then I couldn't sleep. I would sleep for maybe an hour a day. And this went on for almost 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to have to go to a doctor because you can't just keep sleeping 1 hour a night. I was starting
insomnia.
Yeah. And then finally one night I laid down early. I was just laying there and I had crashed and I slept for like 10 hours. I woke up. I'm like, all right. And then I was back on my schedule.
Yeah.
So the sleep was weird. And I still don't know why that happened. I guess it was just overload, like you said, with all the noises and people and everything else. And maybe just my body's still in like that fight or flight kind of mode, like just so much stress on my system. And then the eating, when I came out of the woods, I didn't eat much. I would eat a little bit here or there, but I get real sick feeling. So the only thing that I would really handle well is if I ate meat. Like if I do a lot of protein, I was okay, but like any kind of carbohydrates, I get real like sick feeling from. Even like pizza and stuff, I didn't feel too good from. I could eat some like sugary stuff like gummy bears and gummy worms and stuff, but that was it. And then once I got home, I thought I was taking a heart attack. I never had heartburn before. So we're at my property. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm like sweating bullets. And they're like, no, we think it's heartburn. I'm like, you're not a doctor. You're not a doctor. And then that went away after a couple days and I was all right.
What did now when you, going back to the show real quick, how often did production come to check on you guys?
They have like a staggered schedule, they call it, that they start out, when they drop you off, they come back the first day, the third day, and the fifth day, because they want to make sure, too, that you know how to film, because some people don't know how to run the cameras, they don't have the audio hooked up, they're just not filming enough, so they want to make sure they're getting their footage, more so than checking on you, because most of the people are going to be okay in the first 3 days. And then after that, it was every, like, 5th day or 7th day or 10th day, and then towards the end, it was, like, 12 or 13 days apart they were coming in.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Now when they come in, they don't tell you who's left, how many left, nothing like that.
No, so they do say that before you leave, they have you sign something that if you want to know if there's only 3 people left, they'll tell you that. So I was like, yeah, I want to know that because I thought there's only me and 2 other people. I mean, that gives you more. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to grind a little bit harder to stay in here.
How many start the show again?
10 people.
10 people, and you made it to what number?
I'm going to say 5.
You were like top,
right
like 4 or 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get towards the end there, did you talk to anyone the people that were top 3? Like, did they tell so when they tell you top 3, and they just show up, are you expecting to show up and say, hey, you're the last one, or are they showing up like so did you ever have that mind every time the boat pulled up, like what are they going to tell me?
Yeah, because you don't know what they're going to say. Yeah.
So you always had that kind of like stress,
well, you hope
please
all the
tell
time,
me,
like, please tell me there's only this many left, because the hard thing for me too is I have this mindset going in. I'm like, okay, I can go 60 days, I'm solid, because the other seasons, the first season I think only went 40 some days.
And your season they went almost the longest, right?
The longest out of any season. And then the next season was like 64 days, or no, 54 days, I think. And then I'm like, all right, if I can get in there. So it's like day 50, 51, and I'm like,
I got to be close.
I'm like, this has to be. And then,
you were on the Ironman schedule.
Yeah.
When it came, like, did you guys get together with the whole cast then at the end, like with the History Channel? They do like a reunion thing.
We did. We went back. It was a few months after the show. We all went back.
Did any of you have like any experiences that you didn't realize that somebody else had that was similar to yours? That was like that stood out.
Everybody has about the same things going on. Everybody has their own little twist to it, or they like this or didn't like that.
Yeah.
But pretty similar across the board.
Now, kind of rewind a little bit. What got you into the survivalists and the bushcraft to start the whole thing? Like,
well, I think it was just growing up in this area. I mean, I think everybody used to go up the mountain. I used to go behind the Montecito Little League field or up 8th Street up in the woods
find berries and eat them.
Yeah, just crawl around the woods all the time.
We used to pick like bags full of we called them huckleberries. They just eat them all. And like, no, you're a kid, you don't know. Like anything could have peed on that, or they could have been anything. And you're up in the bush.
So that started it, and then my uncle bought me a survival manual, and I used to look through this thing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go out and figure this out. And I'm like, there's no way these people do this. Like, there's no way. So I didn't realize, because I was still young, I'm gonna say I was still in like maybe early middle school, so maybe like 5th, 6th grade, that all this was like very like specialized, which it is. Like some of the skill sets, like a hand drill where they take the one little rod and they spin their hands down, that's like very desert oriented and dry weather. So that's like more Western, where we do like a bow drill friction fire. So I'd look at these things and then I go and try to do them. I'm like, none of this would ever work. So I sort of gave up on it for a while, but I'd still go out in the woods and do stuff. And then I got involved in competitive shooting, but not like more like long range and like AR-15s and pistols and stuff like that. So I went to a sniper shoot in West Virginia with the guys that used to own an on-target gun shop here in Frackville.
Okay.
And we were doing this sniper stock, and we're crawling through the woods, and we like totally bombed the event. So we're walking out, and I always took a lot of pride that I was up the mountain doing stuff, and like I'm like a woodsman. And we're walking, and I said to the guy walking us out, they were so mad because we were so late on time. I'm like, what way do we go? He's like, you're at a sniper competition. You can't see the tire tracks go to the left. You shouldn't even be in the woods. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And it just like got me fired up. So I started going out in the woods a little bit more, and then Dan and I was like, let's go take all this gear we have all the time with us and pretend we're bugging out. Like, we're like going to be preppers now. So we go from just trying to do the survival stuff when I'm younger to now I'm like a competitive shooter. Then I'm like pretending I'm a sniper. Then I'm like, we're going to be bug out preppers. We go out and we're just a mess. Like, we're not getting a campfire started. We can't get our shelters set up because we're trying to set up like lean-to shelters with tarps and this and that. So I'm like, that's it. I'm like, this is so ridiculous that I don't even have any of these skill sets. And I don't know. It was just, I think, just growing up and thinking that I knew more than I knew.
Yeah.
And I just dove into it and then just kept developing. And I started going to a school out in Ohio called the Pathfinder School. And the person who runs that's Dave Canterbury. He was on the show Naked, not Naked. He'll be killing me if he listens to me. Dual Survival. So he wasn't the barefoot guy. He was the military guy in the original episodes. And me and him just hit it off. Like, we just get along real good. So I was talking to him back and forth. I took a couple more of his classes. He brought me on as an instructor. I was teaching out there, still doing my own thing. And then I was like, man, I said to Dan, I'm like, I really want to teach this out here. Like, I would love to do this. So through all that, I was working in a juvenile justice field at a facility down in Shamokin, and we were doing like rehabilitation with kids and going to court and stuff like that. And they downsized and then ultimately closed, and I got laid off. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not sure what I want to do now. I don't want to go back into this field. I always wanted to own my own business. So I'm like, well, I think I'm going to do the survival school thing. But I didn't have much traction because of just, being other than just teaching at his school. So then the show called me and it was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. So while I was gone, and I was out in the woods by myself, I'm like, I'm doing this as a business. Like, I'm doing it. Life's too short, because you have a different aspect when you're not writing bills out every day and you're not in a hustle and bustle of life and you're just out in the woods thinking about yourself. You're like, I need to do stuff in life that I absolutely love to do. And even if it sucks when you're doing it, just think about how bad it can be. So I was like, well, I'm just doing it. So I started grinding away, and now we're 3 years into it. And
that's awesome. I know when he was first starting, not probably first starting, but he would be like, that's when he was going through his lung thing, and you were like, your health was horrible, and we go to the movie theaters, and he'd walk up the like 4 or 5 steps, and and I'm like. Yeah. And you go out in the woods, you psychopath. And then I'm like, oh, we're having a fight this weekend. You coming? He'd be like, can't go. I'm like, oh, we used to call. I'm going. You're gonna go pretend to be homeless for a weekend. So he's like, oh, you're gonna go be homeless for the weekend. So it was. I always kind of kept track of that through him and stuff. So this is like, for the first time. This is actually our first time actually meeting. Is just the podcast, and it's a very. I always say I wanted to do this because I hope people could listen to it and get something from it, and I try to get as much as I can from my guests as well. And just hearing your inspiration, saying that this is something you were passionate about and you found a niche for yourself, and that's kind of what we're kind of doing here. Like this podcast for me is my niche. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking to people, and just going through like how we just start off, and I'm frustrated I can't get the mics to figure out. I don't know how to do the equalizer, but I'm putting all my energy into it. So I can kind of relate without being in the bush. So it's inspiring me to keep pushing and doing this and just have fun with it, and it could turn into something to one day, So
you're going to take Joe Rogan's spot on UFC.
I love Joe.
Bye, Joe.
I love Joe so much.
He's not watching.
If Joe Rogan ever watched this and comment, I would probably die. But I'm a huge fan of him. I used to watch the fights all the time with people, and I would say something like, if this guy would just do this, or he looks like he's this, and then Joe Rogan like, this guy looks like this, and he did like, like
3 seconds later, pop. Oh, well, there you go. He's down.
I mean, I fought, but I never was like a trained fighter. But it's just a sport I was into. And then when he started doing the podcast, I'm like, this is cool. And like he would have people on that. So I was always interested in the interview. So like how Joe Rogan brings somebody and interviews them, and then you might not know anything about that person. So like a lot of people, they look at a clip or they say, I'm not watching an interview. Like, I don't know who that guy is, or I'm not going to play. But if you take that second and listen to that and listen to that story, a good interviewer would, by the end of the interview, you're like, I'm completely fascinated with this person. And there's 2 people that I really idolize with is Joe Rogan and Howard Stern. Howard Stern can take... You can think they're the biggest shithead pop star of the world, and he sits down for an hour with them, and by the end you're like, I'll listen to all their music. I hated them for 10 years, but he brought that side out of somebody, and I love it. I love like the interaction and meeting people. So you come home from the show and you start your school. How is that going now?
Good. So we're constantly growing. Sometimes it's like, wow, I can't believe how much we've grown. I always remember when I got home, I was sitting in the airport and I called our web designer because I was talking to him before I left for the show, and I was like, I don't know. When I was in the airport on my way home, I called him and I'm like, we got to get this website up and running. I'm doing this. He's like, okay. So that was like the launch of it. And then I was down at the beach with my wife, and I remember we were on the hotel bed and I was talking to an attorney about something, and she's like, do you remember that 3 years ago? Like, we had nothing going. Now it's like there's so much stuff going on. I get up every day and I'm like from 5 in the morning until 10 at night just going nonstop on the grind. So I'm like, it's awesome how much it's
do you do classes with adults and kids, or is it like a mix between the two?
I mean, we do so much different stuff. As far as for classes, we have like a core curriculum of classes that we run. So they're bushcraft, survival, and then long-term wilderness living classes. They're mainly geared towards like 12 years and older. Most of the people that come to those classes are late 20s to early 40s is the majority of people. But then I also do work with schools. So I work with the Shenandoah after school program called the Shine program.
That stuff would be perfect.
And
there's nothing for kids like that.
Yeah, so I go into the schools and we do work with compasses. We do work with different measuring devices. I teach them how to do different skills. They actually did a summer camp. It was Monterey area came, Jim Thorpe, Tamaqua, Panther Valley. They all came over our school property. We did fishing. We did a woods walk. We taught them about animals. So we do all that kind of stuff. So we have all different programming for all different ages and different groups of people. And we do custom programming. So we have Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops to come in and corporate organizations to come in. So
that's awesome.
We really cover a lot of different stuff.
That's. Yeah, do you have anything you ask? I'm sorry.
There's a lot of stuff I'd like to ask.
Go ahead. What do you got, Nikolai?
I mean, just because of like the whole survival thing. Like, I've seen stuff like when it comes to like building shelters and stuff, like a lot of people use tarps and stuff, but like if you don't have a tarp, is it better to, like, I know you want to keep things dry for one, find that kind of shelter, but do you like animal proof it in any way, or is that just not really a concern of things? Where
no, in our area, it's honestly, there's not, animals aren't going to bother you.
Okay.
So, and that's
they smell you
thing.
and stay away.
They're gone. So people always worry. And we have people already that have left our classes. They're afraid of the bears because there's bears on our property. And I tell them the bear isn't going to bother you. Like if the bear smells you, the bear sees you, it's going to run. You might startle a bear, but there's so many of us there. I mean, you'll have 10 people, 15 people at a class. There's so much noise going on, they're going to run. So we don't worry about that. But if you were by yourself in the woods and nobody was around, you know, an animal might pass by, but they're going to run and they're not going to bother you, you know, all that much. Now, it depends on what location you're in. If you were out west and there's grizzly bears, then you need to take that kind of stuff
They're very
into
territorial.
consideration. Yep. So, but for our area here, Eastern Woodlands, what we consider it, no animals are going to bother you here.
We had a class, what was it? Not the last class before. We're all sitting around, and all of a sudden you hear scuffling, and everybody's up with the flashlight, and they're looking. A coyote come right up into camp, probably 15 feet from camp. So all night, that's all you see. Every time they hear a little crick, they're up with the flashlights looking.
That'd be me.
And they're not going to bother
But
you.
they run. As soon as you stand up and
curious,
walk a
you know.
little bit towards them, they go. They're
They
just
take
looking
off.
what's going on, or they smell food. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And back to the shelter thing now. So what we always try to teach is it's normal. People always jump to this. They think survival. I'm just walking in the woods like John Rambo with my knife and nothing else. And that's the last thing we want people to do, because you really want to always have stuff with you. So when you start with our basic classes, we tell them you need a tarp, you need this, you need that. And we teach them how to build a very small survival kit that can keep them alive 72 hours. That even in the worst case scenario, they're going to stay alive until somebody comes and finds them within 72 hours. And our advanced classes then start to teach people, okay, if you don't have that tarp, what do you do? If you don't have a lighter, because we should be allowed to use a lighter, and you think, well, anybody can light a fire in the woods with a lighter. That's not the case, because they just don't know what to do. But we think, if you don't have a lighter, you don't have your fire starter, now how do we use a friction fire off the landscape? So it just evolves in there, because it's fire, shelter, water, food. That's it. And it's at what level of difficulty do you want to make that? So as our classes advance, we make all that stuff harder and harder for the people. Yeah.
Is there like, I know not being like out in the wilderness is like a perfect situation, but is there a perfect situation that you could like survive for a long time with like just like the basic stuff like a tarp and that kind of stuff? Like, is it better to be close to water? Like, not like super close to water, but like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you can get in an area that's, number one, not going to wash out or any kind of water is going to flood in, like you said, and that there's also water that you can get water. Because, I mean, that you need to remember, we just turn on a faucet here.
Right.
So in the woods, you need to go and get that water, bring it back, probably boil it, because if it's coming from a lake or a pond or something like that. So you want to have access to that. And then ideally, over time, you would never stay in the same location because you use up what we call the resources. So if you would just go somewhere in the woods now and you make a campfire day in, day out for 2 weeks, the wood around that campfire gets less and less and less. So at some point you're going to probably need to pick up and move to a new location, so there's new resources. So
yeah, because I wasn't sure if it was one of those kind of things where like you kind of make like a base camp kind of thing and you gradually like go out farther and farther and bring stuff back, or if it's just better to kind of stay in that spot for a little bit and then move your way out and then reset
and we do
stuff
sort
up.
of teach it is, I mean, it's cool you're asking that, because we do teach, like in our survival, basic survival, that first 72 hours you should just be in that location, because we're hoping you put a plan in place, which we teach you how to put a plan in place and what the rescue teams are going to do when they come out and look for you, how to signal for rescue. So we want you to just be found. And if we realize, hey, we're not going to be found, maybe we wandered too far, or the rescue we think is called off now, how do we affect self-rescue? And in our ultimate, we call it the Bushman class, which we just had in December. That's where we're talking about you might have a cabin, or you're like, I'm going off grid to live. And it's a little bit far-fetched, but it's all those old-time skills that people used on the frontier. So then we're teaching them, okay, you have a cabin. Now how do we do that? How do we bring resources back in? How do we map the area out? How do we trap and hunt and preserve that meat so we don't have to keep killing a deer just for 2 pounds of meat? So we teach all that stuff.
Like, you made threats to the president and then you're in the run, and
yeah.
He did really well, though.
Oh, I know. He was in Skipper Dippers there in a dumpster and in Skipper Dippers cooking hamburgers. I mean, that's modern survival at its
It was
best.
horrible, though, for me because I live right in that area. So to have the cops, because I'm right at the edge of the woods, the helicopters flying over top, every day, block my road off and sit there and okay, we're going in, and you see them going with the guns and stuff. It's like,
Did they ever? I'm sorry. Did they ever contact you? Be like, hey, you have survival skills in the woods? Did they
No, and I was actually thinking, I was like, should I contact them and see? Because I'm like, I'll go trap around him.
You could probably
this guy's
track
not going to
him.
run if he sees a normal guy coming through the woods, and then nothing ever. Because who was the other guy from Pike County that shot the police?
Eric Freen.
Because they brought survival experts in for that, and they had them out looking for him, and he was sitting in some hangar, not too
even
far. It was nowhere where they were even searching. But I mean, it's still the same thing. Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't contact you because you're a survival guy in the area. I'm sure you probably could have tracked them quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have that mind state of out there of what to look for. That's
Put that on the webpage.
Yeah.
We'll track
tracking services.
Services.
Find your criminals.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now I see you do a lot of classes at Cabela's, and you go to a lot of survival expos. It looks like, right? So how does that work out for you too? Does that get you a lot of volume and clientele as well? Or
it's a different clientele because of course, as you know, even with the you have to be everywhere nowadays, especially with social media. You have to just be everywhere and try to get as much exposure as you can, so people know you're out there. So working with a brand like Cabela's, that's a huge brand to work with. So them seminars always work out really good, and it's a whole different clientele than I draw on YouTube, or a whole different clientele than I draw on Instagram. And it works out really good. And then the expos, we're going to be doing the Great American Outdoor Show or Sportsman Show down in Harrisburg next month. So that's a huge event. There's so many people down there. And you'll get a good mix of people coming in because you get a lot of people who are coming in to book hunting trips and a lot of people looking for fishing trips.
And there's people who just go to those expos in Harrisburg just because they're there. Yeah. You know how many times I went to the farm show? I don't care about cows, but it's something to go do for the weekend. Or the fireman expo. People just like to walk around, look at a fire truck.
You see something, you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Now, you do have your website. You said you sell merchandise and stuff, and you just started a knife. I was reading.
Yeah. So we do it's crazy because I feel like when people are like, well, what do you do? I'm like, we do. So we started doing all our own screen printing and T-shirt making. We just started a knife line.
I seen that. I like that. That's my favorite one because it's just so ironic for me. I would never.
Bush drinking's even better.
The bush drinking. It's just a great shirt with the logo on. I was looking for that.
Yeah. So we do all that.
The logo is awesome too, by the way. I love the logo. It's simple. But it works.
Yeah.
That was a story and a half.
The logo?
Oh yeah. He's like, hey, we need a logo. I'm drawing crazy shit, going.
Crazy's not even the word. What he was drawing.
I did a dry pod,
skulls
with a
yes.
That was
skulls and scorpions.
Exactly.
Daggers.
You were going back to your old custom tattoo days, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. We're fighting on the phone over it, and I don't talk to him for 3 weeks. And I'm like, you're ridiculous. So I was driving in my car the one day, and I was like, man, I need to figure this logo thing out. I'm like, it needs to be simple. And I sketched this logo down. I was like,
nailed it.
It's so easy.
I don't know if he ever showed you. Did you see for one Christmas? Was it last Christmas? Where Heidi made you?
Oh, no, I didn't even show it to her.
Yeah, so my wife actually, she's her new hobby now is she likes to do canvas paintings.
Okay.
So she gets these canvases from Michael's and she does this whole thing. So for Christmas, she made the Coalcracker Bushcraft logo.
Oh yeah.
I drew it for her, and then she just kind of painted over it, and then she made all brown and the logo, and she gave it to
my back room.
Yeah, it's his Christmas present. Yeah.
Cool.
So little arts and crafts project there, but
cool.
Yeah, check out Heidi's new page, Arts and Crafts.
Yeah, Heidi's Arts and Crafts. Check that out. It's probably coming soon. No, I still have a puzzle. She's gonna kill me for bringing stuff. There's a friggin' Winnie the Pooh puzzle in there that's been there for months. I just made fun of her the entire weekend because her family was here, and I'm like,
yeah, but it's crazy. She'll walk by after 3 weeks and go, oh look, 5 pieces in.
Yeah.
Go away for a month.
Oh my! It got gravitated over there because it was on the couch for a month. I was like, get this out of here.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I didn't
Sick of looking at that
I didn't
puzzle.
have a kitchen table.
Is it a big
for
puzzle?
year.
I didn't see the puzzle when I walked in.
When it's
As soon as you
hiding.
walk in.
Yeah, as soon as you walk in, there's a big white table and there's a puzzle that she's been working on forever, and she's obsessed with Winnie the Pooh. And I'm like, you're not gonna be that person who like glues it together and like you're gonna hang on the
That
wall,
paint
right?
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Paint it.
we're not doing that. Like when you're done, it goes back in the box. And then you give it to the Salvation Army. Like we're not. Our walls aren't going to be put together puzzles. We're like not.
That's
we're not,
great.
We're not those people.
You are going to be those
Not
people
yet.
shortly. As soon as the puzzle's done, you're those
Yeah,
people.
it's going to be on the wall. Next time you come over, it'll be on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one in my kitchen.
A puzzle put together.
Yeah.
I was thinking somebody has a puzzle.
It's the New York skyline. And when you turn the light off, it glows in the dark.
Oh, that seems like a Dan
With
thing.
I didn't do it. My wife did it.
His velvet tiger painting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
I do.
Wow.
Now, another cool thing, we in the last a couple podcasts ago, we had a guy named Tony on, and he incorporated his animals with his thing. So he plays in a band, and he would bring his dog on stage. His dog would literally lay on stage, no leash, no nothing. He would play, do the whole show, and the dog would just hang out.
Yeah.
He brings his dog along for all the things, for a lot of he just wanders the woods, comes back.
Tragic.
Yeah. Well, you stopped bringing Jack around too much
he's getting
as he's getting older.
Yeah, he's getting older, and he'll run and like he won't move for 3 days. You know, his hips are bad, but yeah, like we'd be in the yurt and we'd be laying there, and all of a sudden you can hear like him scratching at the door. He'd leave. I'm like,
He probably loved it.
so I give him like 15 minutes, and then I'm out, and I'm walking around. Snow. I'm like, just, you know.
And I'm laughing. I'm dying because I'm under my wool blanket, and I hear him. He's like running, and he's like, Jack. And he's like, Jack, get over here. And you hear the dog running behind the yurt, and he's behind the yurt. And I'm like, it's 2 a.m. What are you doing? Just lay down.
Let him go. He'll figure it out.
There I am. I'm following his tracks in the snow all the way up because we have like camps that connect. So I'm walking. I'm all the way out by the pond, which is maybe a quarter mile from our camp that we're at. I go back. Jack's already in my bed, soaking wet, because he was swimming in the pond.
That dog cracks me up just for how much misery it puts you through.
God.
Like, I made this cool thing, and Jack just eats it.
Yep.
Tears it apart. I love that dog.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Jack. He was the first Coalcracker Bush dog.
Yeah.
He's
So how many people are actually part of your team when it comes to the Coalcracker Bushcraft team?
So we have Dan and then Mike Gasper. They're like my main 2 instructors.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have four other guys. We just brought a new guy on for this coming year.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then with the knife shop, it's me and another guy are running that. And then my wife helps me with a lot of stuff also.
She
The
thinks
business,
she's the CEO.
Yeah, we call her the CEO. But yeah.
Everybody quit.
Everybody would quit if she was sick.
He was doing a group text. It was like, hey, we're going to be doing blah, blah, blah. And his wife chimes in, and everybody's like, I quit.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Brooke. We love you.
Now, when it comes to trap, and I know he showed me some pictures back in the day, what was the scariest trap you had where you walked up on your trap and you're like, whoops, didn't mean to get that?
Probably I was in Ohio trapping and I got a bobcat.
Yeah.
And it's not that the bobcats are scary, but you can't trap bobcats in Ohio, so you have to release it. So I was with Dave Canterbury, and he's like, "Come on, brother, get it out of there." And I was like, "You get it out of there." He's like, "Well, you never did it. Get it out." And I'm like, "You never did it either." He's like, "Yeah, I always." And I'm like, "Well, you don't know." So we're back and forth. So we had a trapping sled. So he's like, "Throw the sled over it, and I'll pull its paw out." So I throw the sled over it, and it's bouncing, and you can hear it, and you can hear it's like hissing and it's bouncing. He's like,
Never.
I can't get the leg, brother. Right? And I'm like, well, grab it. And he's like, hold it. The thing's going, so finally gets its leg, releases it. Now the thing is in there, not in a trap, and I'm on top of the sled. So think of a little sled, this bobcat's bouncing underneath, and I'm on it. So I'm like, all right, is everybody good? I pull the sled up, and I'm not going anywhere. So I put the sled back down, and it starts bouncing around, and I'm like, this thing's not running. So I finally lifted the sled up, and I hit the sled, and then the thing jumped from like me to you away, and it's like looking at me, and I'm like, what do you do?
And you're probably
then
on your knee at this point.
Yeah, so I'm with the sled, and I'm like, oh, and then it finally ran. I
would have needed new underwear.
Yeah.
That's scary. I would have walked. I was like, can we just shoot it?
Yeah.
I would have been like, we're just shooting this because there's no way I'm getting near it. like, and now you have a whole room that's all your skins and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we actually, where I live next door, it went up for sale. So I said to my wife, let's buy it. We're going to rent the place out. Okay. So we had to fix it up. We were doing a little bit of work. I put some stuff in there. I put a little bit more stuff in there. I put a little bit more stuff in there.
And then it turned into your...
And the entire house is now full of outdoor equipment and trapping equipment.
Now...
Start fleshing animals in the kitchen.
Yeah. So it's like this old refrigerator just full of booze. Like, you ever see the commercials, like the beer commercials? They open, it's like every inch is beer.
Yeah.
That's our refrigerator. And then we're just like fleshing animals out in there. It's crazy.
So it's just filled with beer and then animals.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So just so we have, because we may have a viewer or two that's very animal conscious, we'll say. Now,
Yes.
Everything that you do with the animal, I mean, for the most part, it's used. It's nothing's going to waste. It's not like you're like, 'cause some people think that, when they go do this, it's just people just doing it for doing it. But you guys craft and you make stuff out of everything that you guys kick. The meat's eaten, everything's put to use.
Yeah. So we use as much as we can off it. The only thing I'll say is, like, sometimes we'll get a deer during deer season, and I mean, you get to the point where you're like, I have more deer bones than I can use. I have more, deer tendons than I'm ever going to need. So I mean, you need to keep saving that stuff. So I try to give it away, or we have it at classes for students to use for stuff.
You can carve stuff into it.
Yeah.
Little bushcraft logos and hey, here's a deer bone, $10.
Yeah. So
Ching.
yeah. So we try to use almost everything. But I always tell people too, I mean, people get very upset about the whole trapping situation. I think that's like a big demise of it. But I teach hunter trappers education in the state of Pennsylvania. So just talking to the Game Commission, there's such a need for animal control because nobody goes out and either traps or hunts these animals.
Yep.
So you're doing such a huge service to keep the populations down a little bit, help disease control and things like that, that people just don't realize that because it's like, oh, you're torturing this animal. And I mean, there's just so many of these animals out there, and you're actually helping the population. It's no different than hunting deer.
And a big thing, it's something that I think if more people looked into, and I don't think it's an argument that's used enough. So if you look at statistically, a lot of the motor vehicle accidents and deaths by motor vehicle accidents in the northeast area are in the heavily wooded areas are deer hitting cars. They that kills a lot of people. I mean, obviously not as much of a drunk driver and stuff, but it's there, and that's because they're in areas that are overpopulated with deer. And hunting. I mean, I personally would never be able to do it. If I had to shoot, I would probably cry. I watched Bambi too many times. So I'm very pro animal, but I understand the reason for hunting and trapping. And from what I understand is, you would rather not have it so that are you more of a humane kill trap, or are you more of like a trap and then you go and finish it off? 'Cause I know there's laws in Pennsylvania with that as well too, right?
Yeah, majority of the traps that are land traps here in Pennsylvania they're going to just hold the animal, and then you're going to have to go and dispatch the animal with a .22 caliber rifle. For water trapping, most of those traps are kill traps. So, and that's just how the Game Commission has it regulated. And the reason that they don't want kill traps on land is they don't want non-target animals. Because if you're a good ethical trapper and you understand what you're doing, you can set traps accordingly in different sizes and different locations to get the animal you're looking for. So if you want to get fox out of an area, you're going to set specific traps for that, compared to if you're trying to get raccoons, or if you're trying to get canines, which would be, of course, coyotes and fox. You set different traps with different baits and lures and really narrow it down to just that animal. So if you have just a kill trap in general,
and you get the wrong thing,
you get the wrong thing, or the neighbor's dog, that's not a good thing.
I never even thought of it that way. Now another thing with I just completely lost my train of thought for a second there. Nicola, do you have anything while I think?
So I do.
All right, awesome.
This is a question.
I keep forgetting he's over back there.
I don't know a lot about trapping. So I'm assuming there are people out there who don't know. But like, I know what a bear trap looks like, but like, I'm sure there's
from the horror movies.
Kind of traps.
And they're no longer with big teeth and all that. That's fable.
So that's more my question. Is there like particular one that you could like walk me through of, just as an example?
So if you think of the big old school bear trap that everybody thinks they get in, and it's the big claws that shut and your foot's trapped in it. Shrink that down, the jaws on it. So when the jaws are open, the jaws, lay open, the widest that's going to be is 5.5 inches. So it's only, that big, a little bit bigger than a coaster. And most of the time, they're only used for coyotes. So like a raccoon trap or something, for like a fox, you're looking at even smaller, maybe 3.5 inches. So you're only dealing with something this big. So you can step on it. You won't even know you stepped on it in the woods. It might just pop underneath your foot and you're like, what was that? You can put your hand in it. I just did a video on YouTube that I said, I got caught in a bear trap and I just put my hand in a coyote trap. I mean, it just squeezes your hand.
There's no barbs on it or anything, is there?
There's no barbs on it or anything like that. It just grips and holds onto the animal. I'm going to say out of the numerous animals that I've had in traps, very few, maybe 2%, you'll have a little, maybe some cuts on their hands because they've been jumping around in the traps.
Yeah.
But majority of them, once you dispatch them and let them out of the trap, it just looks like if you had your hand pinched in something and you just had a little bit of an indent in your hand.
Like you have a rubber band around your finger too long.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what it would look like. And, I mean, you could feel their bones. It doesn't break their bones or anything like that when you're in the traps. And, again, I mean, it does make people uncomfortable, you know, with that stuff. But we try to do it as humanely as possible. I mean, I don't want to see an animal out there struggling or injured or hurt or anything.
Yeah.
So we try always to, you know, do our best with.
A lot of people don't realize, too, like, a lot of those animals, if they like, if you're a person who lets your cat out, or you're like, you know, a lot of people live out in the, you know, the Barnesville, Ringtown area. Their cats are outdoor cats as well as their indoor cats. Those foxes, raccoons, they will go after your animals.
Oh yeah,
they'll definitely eat them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's interesting. Yeah.
So, more on like the trapping side of things. There are also cages that like they crawl in and just kind of like closes.
Yeah, have a heart traps.
Okay.
It's just a box trap that the animal goes in and then you trap it live, and that's just for like in town or something, and you don't. You're just wanting to trap it and get rid of it somewhere alive.
Right.
Which
a lot of nuisance control animal officers will use those just because no matter what gets in them, they'll be okay in there.
Okay.
Like a cat or
Yeah.
You were muted the whole time. I was adjusting your volumes. And I was like, what is going on? Why can't I get his volumes up? But as soon as I unmuted, I heard the computer fan. But I was like, yeah, that's the whole time. I was like, talk into your mic. My bad. You're actually muted the whole time too, but you were getting picked up on our mic, so we're good to go with that. Yeah, that's learning.
It only took an hour and 11 minutes.
Wow,
nailed it.
and now it's pretty loud.
Oh,
yeah. Well, now you actually can hear yourself.
No, I could really hear him.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to the whole time.
Yeah.
I was picking him up though.
Yeah. These mics are like, if someone's shoveling outside, you'll hear it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
like his dog Lady, she'll be over there drinking water, and it's just like right
it sounds like
next to
she's
your head.
drinking it in your head.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's great.
You got anything else?
Not at the moment.
All right,
So
I'm
you
going
can mute me for now.
to mute you for now so I don't get the computer fan. Bye, Nikolai.
Bye.
What about Ben? Besides, what are you drinking over there, Ben?
You just muted me.
You just started it now.
Yeah.
You just did it.
I'm
It's a
drinking
sour.
no, I'm not drinking a sour, believe it or not. It's a Conky Dong 4-Up. It's a quadruple dry hop triple IPA. Do you want to try a little bit of it?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it bitter beer like that one?
It's hoppy.
No,
it's an
it's
IPA.
hoppy.
No, I'm good.
Okay, fair enough.
Dump it in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best way to drink that. Dump
Dump
it in the woods.
Dump it in the woods.
So if you had your overall goal for this year for the company and the school, what would your goal be?
For this 2019. So we were starting this knife line. We started talking about it a little bit. So just to get the knife line totally up and running, because that, like you said, you're dealing with all these knobs and wires, and you're like, how do you do this? Same with us. I'm running grinders, and we have CNC machines running and heat treat and stuff and handles. So just to get that up and we have that process all smoothed out. And then we're going to be moving from Monte City to up here to Frackville to a warehouse because our operation has grown. So that's going to be hopefully a smooth transition. We get all that going.
So you're gonna get that house completely cleared out of animals.
So that house will be all completely cleared out, and well, I like to think it's going to be cleared out, but then I'm like, well, if I have a warehouse area for just the business stuff and the knife stuff, then we can just keep the house just for trapping and outdoor stuff. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
Now, family-wise, you have children, correct?
One little guy. Yeah.
One little guy. Is he into this as well?
He loves it, so he's all into it. If he can go out in the woods, he wants to be out in the woods.
That's
with
awesome.
Me. So he has his axes, and he needed for Christmas a Rambo knife, like a legit Rambo knife. So so my brother-in-law, his uncle, bought it for him. So I had to grind off the edge, and we take the real knives and then we make them dull.
Yeah.
So he wears this big Rambo knife. It's down to like his ankle, and he like walks around with this Rambo knife. He's like, this thing opens up. He opens up the top of it, and there's like a fishing kit in there and a compass.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
Like, yeah. He's like, it's better than any knife you have. And I'm like, oh, thanks, buddy. So, yeah.
He has an oilskin tarp He wears no shirt and he ties it close.
Like Rambo 1, yeah. So my wife will be watching. She's like, "You think he should be watching this?" I'm like, "I watch it."
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, that's not a strong argument at all. For, should he be watching?"
And it really comes down to guidance. Like if you're teaching right from wrong. I grew up with violent video games, violent movies, violent music, the whole nine.
Yes.
But if you obviously you can tell if your kid is taking it too far, then you need to have the conversation. Like, okay, listen, like. This is
There's a line
you have to teach reality from that, but it's smart. Like if your kid now ever gets in a situation where something were to happen, he has skills and he may be young, but you know there's stories out there that are miraculous. I know when I was really looking into this and doing kind of some researching with the trapping and everything like that, I come across these kids on YouTube. There's like I guess these little kids from like they literally look like the jungle, like Mowgli from the Jungle Book. They're these two little like kids from like Africa, and they go out and they set and build these awesome traps. Do you ever see them?
No.
So
I'm gonna have to go on and check this out.
So they catch like snakes and like
Is this
water
legit
eels.
stuff? Like
They go out and they have like they'll take like a fan, like a fan from like a isolating fan, and they'll dig a hole in the ground and fill it with like and they get like a soda bottle so it'll let the animal in but it won't let it back out. And then they'll put like pieces of chicken or raw, and then like this huge snake will come in and then they can't get back out, and then they look and they see it. Like they build these insane traps.
That's cool.
And then they have these ones where these guys go out and like they'll build like this house out of dirt and mud and clay, and like they'll build like a pool around it and stuff. Like if I come across them, I'll share them on Facebook.
That's awesome.
I found all these like people like building crazy stuff like in the middle of nowhere. Like a guy built this whole like cabin in the woods.
But that's the thing. That's all they know too. Like that's how they're raised. Like,
that's how they
You know, that's how they survive. Like it's just,
and they're doing the same thing. They're hunting animals that need to be controlled, and if they're not controlled, they will take over the area. Like it's
crazy. Like I say it all the time. Like. You talk about survival. What do you think ancestors did? What do you think? Like, you ever like the movie Reverend with
DiCaprio?
DiCaprio. Yeah. Like this guy over
He's
here.
a stunt double.
Yeah, he got raped by the bear. That was his scene.
It's crazy what they had to endure. Not only did they have to trap for themselves for to eat daily, but they were trapping for other people and to utilize the furs. It was just, it's not a.
Yeah, we don't have any idea what it.
Now when you go to the classes, I noticed that he dresses somewhat normal, and so does everyone else. And then you wear your pioneer gear. Are you like the mascot?
No, my 18th century gear is for when we do Fort Fredericks or like novelty stuff when we go to do
like Cabela's.
Because that's interesting. Like because most of the stuff it's all handmade.
You know what it reminded me of? Like the one video I seen where you guys were at photos I seen when you guys were at the school, and he's like showing them how to make a fire, and you're kind of standing in the back like Porcupine Pat in your full gear. That's what it reminded me of. Like the kids are like, "Oh, look at that guy! He's wearing a cool outfit."
We can cut this part of the interview out.
Yeah, he has the cool little outfits. I love it.
Yeah,
it cracks me up.
Yeah. It is good to dress them up, though. Because for me...
If I had Dan on my team, that's what I would do, too.
I mean, it's so much easier than me dressing up. Because I can dress just with a T-shirt on, pair of pants, just normal. And then he has to wear all this equipment. He's sweating to death. You don't give him any water.
It looks super warm, though. Like, if you're in the bush, like, you're good to go with that stuff.
I tried it at 110 degrees when we were down at Cabela's, and everybody wants to take their picture with me.
Yeah.
They're like, let me take a picture with a funny man, Mom.
She's like, stay away from him.
He's a creepy mustache.
Yeah, with a creepy mustache. Yeah.
Do you have any funny stories? Like you guys up at the school or the camp, or anything interesting happened?
I mean, there's always something going on. There's literally always something.
You guys usually do like New Year's and stuff up there, right? So you bring in the New Year at the school, and you do like kind of like holidays and stuff up there.
Yeah, we try to always do that. We have like a core group of people that have just always camped with us. So we always try to make at least the holidays, because I try to keep them open on my schedule, so I don't have anything going on. We always try to have a good camp out. So like last year, for Memorial Weekend, we brought in, it was almost 100 pounds of just meat. So 3 days we were just like cooking brisket, just any kind of meat you can imagine. We were cooking and just killing it. So it was just beer.
Me and Heidi were looking at it like, oh, we're making pizza in the bush, and she's like, that looks really good. Like I was like, I would go over just for the food and then just drive me out at the nighttime. But it looks. You guys have a really cool family unit. Like so now when I think as an outsider, when I did the research and I found out just from hearing from him too, like you guys are a unit. Like your team, your Coalcracker Bushcraft team is like a family. It's not just your immediate family, but you're branching out, and you take care of my buddy Dan here, and you look out for him, and your other guys are part of your team. You guys have a really cool, tight fit, like a family union. And that's really cool too. So if you're definitely looking to, as an outsider, like, you're definitely going to feel very welcome going near your school and doing that. And then I think that's very important. I think that's something you guys, from an outside perspective, who didn't really know anything else, just, through outside thing, it looks very welcoming. And you guys definitely know what you're doing. You proved it. You went on a show already. Yeah. You survived 51 days in Argentina. You can't learn from anything better than that, Right. So it's awesome. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. It's really cool what you're doing. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, all these guys, they hold everything together, because I get crazy behind the scenes. I'm like, this is my business. You better do it. So they all do really good with everything, and
I'm like that
it is really like a family unit though, because even when we're going to bring a new guy in, it's like, Dan, what do you think about this guy? Mike, what do you think about this guy? Brooke, what do you think about this guy? And they have to click with us, because we're a very unique group of people that have, a unique mindset around everything. So as long as they click, then it's good, because not everybody would mend well with us.
I had the same experience with this when we were first starting this. People wanted to be in, and I kept my guys who were with me, and then I have other people that are part of the team too, but they help out with the live shows. But it's the same thing. It's develop. If you have a good team behind you, it works. And even if this doesn't do anything for me, it's just a great experience. I love doing it, and that's the same thing probably for you guys too. Like obviously you want it for the business aspect, which is awesome. Yeah. But you're giving your son's going to have amazing memories and learning cool things, and you're teaching people in the community amazing things. So it's definitely awesome what's going on and what you're doing. Yeah. Do you have, now you're trying to get more active on the social media side too? You're doing little shows and stuff. I seen
So it's always something going on. YouTube over the last year, I was like, man, I want to get my YouTube to pick up. So I went from probably 7,000 subscribers. I'm almost at 60,000 now.
I seen that. I was like, holy crap!
So I'm
like 54. Just killing it.
So so we're hoping we'll hit 100,000 over the next year, and then just keep growing. Once you get momentum going there, it's better. I'm almost at 20,000 on Instagram. So
Instagram's tough too.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tough platforms, especially you just got to keep grinding away at it, and see what happens with it. So that's our thing. But we always try, and I'm always trying to think, not what's the next best thing, because I realized with YouTube when I was like, I'm going to do this, what's going to make me comfortable and what's going to make me happy to do it every day, because if you're putting a video out a day, you better like doing it, because if you have to go out and not like doing it, that's not going to last too long. So I don't want to say get burned out, but it gets just teaching basic skills. I'm like, it's good and people like it, but it gets to the point of okay, I want to evolve. What's my next evolution in this? So for this year, we're looking at we were thinking we were doing beers and bushcraft. So me and him drink a beer, talk bushcraft, just talk about just everyday kind of stuff. And then, it just goes from there. So that sort of dropped off. The only hard thing with me, though, is if my schedule doesn't allow it. Yeah. So, and, that should never be an excuse, though, on the flip side. I need to be I have to get this done.
I'm the same way, too. If I'm putting my effort towards something, I want to be able to do 100%. Yeah. And like I said, we do 7 shows a month. We do two pro wrestling shows, 2 mixed martial arts shows. We're trying to add another show for our pop culture show. Then we're adding a beer show, and then I try to do 3 to 4 interviews a month. Yeah. So we're pushing it, and like I said, people are behind you. They're helping you. So it's hard putting your time into that. Yeah. So I definitely understand. I know where you're coming from, but maybe one of these times we'll do a banging beers meets bushcraft beers. He's always finding these really cool beers and stuff. And
Ben's the really.
We'll put 2 big cameras up there, my camera, your camera, and everything all simultaneously, and we'll be good to go.
Now the funny thing about the show, the beer one that cracks me up is the table you're at. Now you're standing.
Listen, everybody gets so crazy with this table, so that's in the special trapping house. Yeah, and
he's sitting on a stool, and he still looks tiny.
I know. So I built this table. My wife's like, this, because my wife's short. She's like, this is ridiculous, because everybody has to stand on the lower shelf to even get to the top shelf. I'm like, but when I have to work at this thing all day, and I'm shipping
it's
orders,
not hurting your back.
I'm like, it's so comfortable. Yeah. So that table's going to go to the warehouse, and it's going to be like Dan's table, and then it's going to be everything else is going to be low for everybody else, and they could just just do whatever they want on their other tables.
Yeah.
I'm on a stool and a wool blanket.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing? He's ripping all this stuff off the shelves. And I have a little bit of OCD with stuff. And he's like, well, I need to have my seat. I'm so small and I can't do it. And I look
That's a good impersonation. Yeah. He nailed it.
Yeah. That is you.
Yeah.
So, so you always got to keep him in line with stuff, though.
Yeah.
So there's always something I'm blasting him. If anybody gets yelled at from the boss, it's him. I mean, no matter what happens, I just yell at him.
He's thick.
So, and everybody's starting to know that on the team. So they're like, we messed something up, blame Dan. And he's just like, yeah.
Another badge of honor.
It's like that.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely got to do something again, though. I definitely enjoyed the interview. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of cool things. Do you have anything else you guys want to plug or anything you guys going on?
No, I mean, if you don't follow us on YouTube, if you check us out at YouTube, at Coalcracker Bushcraft, that would be great. And then I'm Dan Wowak on Instagram, so I post a lot of stuff on there and a lot of Insta stories throughout the day with just a bunch of nonsense. We make fun of Dan on the Insta story a lot. So the best I'll tell you.
I got engaged.
The absolute. So I did. Well, that was recently. I did the hearts like glowing around him, and I said recently engaged. So people were like, "Oh, congratulations, Dan! Congratulations." He didn't get engaged.
Yeah, no.
But the best thing, and you can start doing it because it'll work perfect for you. Say, Dan, let's get our picture. Hold your camera out, okay? But hit the video. Don't hit the camera. And he'll go from like normal to like really sexy mode. Like he gets into it. Like he's just like
duck face him
in a Playgirl magazine. He's just like chest out. He's like,
and he has no idea it's a video.
No, and then I'm like, it's a video. People love it. They just eat it up.
That's enough right there for a subscribe. So definitely check them out. So, all that will be in the description. We'll definitely get into all that. Like the bio. I'm trying to get better on my bios. So I know like the people who I'm sorry if you're my next cupping up interviews and I'm begging you for your bios, but it interests people. Like if I'm like, hey, here's a picture of a guy and I'm talking to him, and you know, I mean, because when I first started this, just we're in the same page, but the first couple of interviews I did were people I knew, comfortable with, family members, friends, and now I'm getting to the point where I wanted to be, where I'm interviewing people that I don't really know, and I'm getting that one-on-one. So the next couple interviews coming up are all that type of stuff where it's all outside people. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up, but yeah, man, I appreciate you guys coming in and helping out. We'll definitely have a follow-up. We'll do it and hopefully get like
that'll be cool. We can get a bunch of beers and we can get
we'll do a collaboration. Maybe come up to the school one day and you'll see us try to do our survival, man.
We'll do a quick picture here. Hold on.
Here we go.
You ready? See, that's a video.
See? What an asshole. Did you see my hair? What the fuck is going on here?
We were just at the gym before this. Because I force him to go to the gym every day, and he's like, well, my hair's messed up. I don't have wax in my beard. I don't have this. I don't have...
I have a thing of wax upstairs you can have. I have a hard time using it.
I'm not sure where that would have been.
Oh. No, I only use the one. It smells really good. I actually got it from a guy who wrestles. He used part of a crew called the Mustache Crew, and he changed his thing up now. He goes by DB Cooper. He's a really cool dude.
I see. Yeah.
His wrestling thing. They were giving away their mustache wax.
Oh, cool.
But it's good stuff. You can have it. The anti-Hitler. I only grow a little bit, so it'll suit you better than me.
Yeah.
But just a reminder for everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Keep an eye out for the rest of the stuff coming up. This month, the next interview coming up is going to be Andy Heder. You've seen him on our pop culture show. You've seen him on our wrestling show. He's a local guy. He does professional wrestling. He's actually the Outbreak champion right now. He has a show coming up soon, so check him out. And then we end this month with Michael Ben. He's a photographer in the area. Awesome work. To me, the best way I describe his work, it's like really attractive, curvy girls with a lot of tattoos and like a punk rock, heavy metal style to it, but like the old school pinup. It's phenomenal.
Right up Dan's alley.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, I'll show you some of the stuff on his Instagram before we leave. It's phenomenal. You'll like it. So awesome. He does a lot of cool stuff. He does a lot of like photography in the area.
Where's he out of?
I think he lives in Frackville, but he he does it everywhere. So cool. I'm doing him at the end of the month, and then February you'll see that stuff coming up soon. But I'm excited for everything. So definitely, if you guys enjoy it, leave a like and subscribe. Give some comments. If you guys leave enough comments and we get stuff in there, some questions, we'll have these guys back and we'll do it a second time. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See you.
Stay in the woods.
That's what we usually end everything with.
Oh, stay in the woods.